Hi, I'm Glenn Whitney, and I'm with the National Museum of Mathematics, and I'm here in the Dallas Arts District because we're partnering with Walk STEM. And I'd love to take you along with me this morning, a little taste of what we do in our math walking tours to show the math that's in the world around us. The key here is that math really imbues everything in the world around us. There's lots of things that I could talk about, but I'd like to start with something that we perhaps walk by every day, don't even give it a second thought, and show you that there's mathematics even inside those things. I'm gonna start right here with this traffic bollard. You'll see that all of the bollards are the same shape. Every single one is a cylinder. Why would that be? Is it because cylinders are just more attractive? Cylinders have no corner that you can bump into? Well, those might be the reasons, but there's actually an underlying mathematical reason why you see that shape over and over again. It's because the mathematics of the structure of the shape tell us that we can get the maximum stiffness with the minimum amount of material if we build a bollard in this shape. These brushed steel bollards that we have here embody another mathematical mystery. If you look at the reflections off of the top of the surface, as we know, light travels in straight paths. It's hitting this flat surface, and yet you will see curved reflections of the sunlight in the top of this bollard. Where could that curve possibly come from? What is that curve? How can we understand its shape? Mathematics can illuminate these mysteries.
Hello, I'm Richard Benson, President of the University of Texas at Dallas. As a proud host to more than 5,700 students from 102 countries, we believe global diversity and engagement enriches UT Dallas and has an important role in our mission to excel in education and research. On behalf of our university community, I'm so pleased you are considering UT Dallas. You are welcome here.
Moving to a new country can be scary, but at UT Dallas, we have a whole community of people who are here to support you in your transition to the United States. You are welcome here.
We,
on behalf of
the Indian Students Association, welcome you
to UT Dallas.
Go Greek and go Comets.
माझं नाव सुयश आहे आणि मी तुमचं हार्दिक स्वागत करतो UTD मध्ये.
We welcome every student, every race, every nationality.
We love diversity here at UTD and we want you as a Comet.
I came to this country more than 30 years ago on a student visa. I was fortunate to find a welcoming environment at UT Dallas, where I continue my research and teaching as a faculty member in electrical engineering. You are welcome here.
Student government welcomes diversity.
It's a great feeling to be in the US as an international student.
Chào mừng đến UTD Dallas.
To every student from every nation, you are welcome here.
Good evening. Welcome to the UT Dallas Women in Tech panel hosted by the Johnson School of Engineering and Computer Science. I'm Dresden Goldberg, Assistant Director of the Institute for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. That's right. As a mom of twin daughters, I am particularly passionate about ending the gender gap in technology, leadership, and entrepreneurship. And I've had the joy of leading our women's entrepreneurship initiatives over the last year. We are very lucky here at UT Dallas to work with some amazing women who are always willing to give their time for mentorship and to share their stories, their expertise, and their insights with us like we're going to hear tonight. So now I would like to introduce you all to the Interim Dean of the Johnson School of Engineering and Computer Science and a longtime professor of electrical engineering. He is a fellow of the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, an author, patent holder, and startup technical advisor who has received university and Johnson School awards for teaching, service, education, and research mentoring. Please welcome Dr. Porus Balsara.
Good evening. Good evening. That's good. Welcome to UT Dallas. My name is Porus Balsara. I am the Interim Dean of Engineering and Computer Science School at UT Dallas. And it's my great honor to welcome you all to UT Dallas for this exciting event hosting women in technology. So this event is part of our Fearless 2020 campaign. Fearless 2020 is a comprehensive engagement initiative focused on creating opportunities to transform our community through education. Providing opportunities for and celebrating achievements of underrepresented groups, including women in technology, is a key priority for the Johnson School as we look to achieve our goals for the future. Now, let me give a warm comments welcome to all our visitors from local high schools and middle schools. So when you hear me call out your school's name, please stand and be recognized. Halsey STEM Middle School. Apollo Junior High School. Liberty Junior High School. Berkner High School. Townview Science and Engineering Magnet. Thank you all for joining, and once again, a hearty welcome to you all. So we expect a lot of great questions from you and others in the audience because the panelists are expecting a lot of tough questions from you also, especially the students. And now, a word of special thanks to our co-sponsors and leadership joining us tonight here at UT Dallas. So first, President Richard Benson and his wife, Mrs. Leslie Benson. Please stand and be recognized. The Office of Diversity and Community Engagement. Anybody here from the team? The Institute for Innovation and Entrepreneurship is our second campus partner. Also, thanks to our external partners, the Communities Foundation of Texas and TalkSTEM. TalkSTEM is our first community partner. They organize a great activity for our high school and middle school students before this panel. Thank you very much, TalkSTEM. And finally, the Communities Foundation of Texas. Thank you for joining us as a partner tonight and supporting UT Dallas in so many ways. So now I would like to take this opportunity to introduce Dave Scullin, who joined Communities Foundation of Texas as president and CEO in January 2017 after an extensive career at the two global firms, Deloitte and Arthur Andersen. Prior to his retirement in May 2016, Dave was recognized as a top partner, holding multiple leadership roles throughout his career. He has extensive leadership experience with public, private, nonprofit, and civic groups. He is a graduate of Marquette University and lives in Plano with Suzanne, his wife of 40 years. His 2 adult children also reside in Texas. So please join me in welcoming Dave Scullin to the podium.
Well, that was fun. Thank you, Dr. Balsara. My mom's deceased, but I hope she heard some of that. I certainly appreciate it. And I just want to say how excited we are at Communities Foundation of Texas to be part of this, to be here with you this evening at UTD, and to be co-sponsors saluting all of you women as leaders in technology. And what a great gathering that we have. And we have not only today's leaders, but tomorrow's leaders, and that makes it really special. We don't get a lot of events just like that, and that makes this one special. I'd be interested, before I get started, and I promise I will not be speaking very long, but I am interested, how many of you in the audience, with a show of hands, really don't know much of anything at all about Communities Foundation of Texas? Just give me a show of hands. That's okay, I'm not upset about that. That's exactly what I expressed. And so let me just take a moment and give you a few elements of what we do. And on just one level, let me say this. We're a large community-centric foundation, actually the largest one here in the state. We've got 1.1 billion of assets. We have just over 100 people. And on a national scale, that's a very large community foundation. But that's just one dimension. Let me just describe it a little bit more in the context of what our purpose is. We've got a North Star, and our North Star is to build thriving communities for all. We know North Texas is thriving for money, and we know it's not thriving for all. We got a lot to do. And what's our role in that? We bring passion, scale, expertise to build community strength around the issues that need to be addressed, and we try to do that in a way that delivers enduring solutions. That's a long way before we get to all of those elements, but that's our North Star. We connect forward-looking individuals, families, and businesses with strategic nonprofits to collectively bring greater impact to the needs that our community really has. So that's the direction that we're headed. And since we've been here since 1953, and since then, we've granted out $1.8 billion, and this time next year will be a $2 billion, to this community, mostly here in North Texas. And we manage over 1,000 individual funds. Those are individual relationships of people we work with. One fund, and you'll find this interesting, is that we manage the High Tech, High Heels Fund, which was founded by TI some time ago. And some of you may be here who were founding of that. And since 2015, that fund has granted out almost $800,000 to STEM projects supporting girls specifically, investing in our future. How great is that? We also have lots of initiatives. One I'm just going to comment on briefly, and that's our Educate Texas effort. It's a statewide education, consultancy, and advocacy. And it has a very heavy STEM focus. That's, if you want to move the meter in education, you're going to be dealing with STEM at some level, and that's a big part of what we do. In fact, just last spring, we announced that Texas Instruments had invested through Educate Texas to build out the Richardson ISD Berkner feeder pattern. I know you've got folks here from Richardson ISD. We're working with you, and that's an exciting process. And what we're doing is building it out so it can be a full STEM pathway for all the students, not just selective. And this was following on the successful full STEM program that we helped drive with TI's support at Lancaster ISD. The meter is changing, the bar is moving, and it's going in the right direction. And I'd also say, I suspect, unless you've been under a rock at some point, you've heard about North Texas Giving Day. And on September 19th, 2019, our North Texas Giving Day initiative will celebrate its 11th year of this region-wide phenomenon and movement. And last year we rallied with many of you, I'm sure, to raise $48 million for over 2,700 nonprofit organizations over 20 counties in North Texas. It's a mouthful. And this audience will be quite interested to know that of that 48 million, 3.2 million went to nonprofits who focus exclusively on women's causes. And I promise you an awful lot of the other 48 million is in organizations that also support women and others. And as people donated, here's another interesting element. They pledged over 436,000 hours of service. That's the equivalent of 212 full-time people for a year helping out. Now just think of building on that. What can you do with 212 people full-time for a year? The future, in my opinion, for our community is bright. So save the date for September the 19th. Help us set yet another record as the biggest giving day here in the U.S. I'm sure we can do it. I'd love to share more with you about CFT, but for now, let me just ask you, if you have a moment, please go into our website, www.cftexas.org, and take a look at some of the things we're doing. Or better yet, come and see us at 5500 Caruth Haven Lane. It's Lane, not Plaza, excuse me. Caruth Haven Lane. Come and see us. By the way, we convene over 20,000 guests per year. That's what we do. And we would love to have you. And not only would we love that, in fact, building a thriving community necessitates that we be a connector with leaders across the entire community. And it's apparent that there's a lot of leaders here in the audience, so we would absolutely love to see you. We need your help and we need your collective insight to move the meter on what this community really needs. So now I'd like to welcome my guest colleague, my great colleague, excuse me, and tonight's moderator, Sejal Desai. Sejal is simply a special spirit. She leads our CFT for Business initiative, very powerful connection that we have with the business community to connect them with doing the right thing, which helps everybody. And she has worked with more than 300 companies here in North Texas in the last number of years to engage them in the community in multiple ways, service, events, you name it. And for business, greater community engagement means more employee engagement with the business. So it's win-win for employees, business, and the community at large. She's doing really great work there. Sejal's a recipient of the Audrey Kaplan Inspiring Women's Award, and she serves on the boards of Trusted World and Talk STEM and the North Texas Food Bank Indo-American Council, and that group is on fire in what they're doing for the for the food bank. She's co-founder of a number of giving circles. She's a graduate of Leadership Richardson and a fellow of the Op-Ed Project. I tell you, Sejal, I am proud to serve with you at CFT and ask you to now join me to welcome her and the panelists that she'll introduce separately. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dave, for that kind introduction. I feel so honored to have our CEO introduce me while I moderate a panel at my alma mater, UTD, which really served as an incredible launching pad for my career here in Dallas. And today to be able to have a conversation with these incredible women in business and technology is truly a very special moment. Dave and I are delighted to be able to partner with UTD on this incredible event that has gathered a group of young and experienced minds around DFW. So how many of you saw the black hole picture last week? Yes, a whole bunch of you, wonderful. And you probably also saw Katie Bauman there, as well as the MIT computer scientist Margaret Hamilton's pictures side by side. What fun opportunities both of them had to make incredible contributions. And so while we also recognized on Twitter and many other places that there were so many other scientists and teams that were involved with this project, I think what is also really cool is to just take a moment and recognize and celebrate these young women and their bright minds, these women in technology. So if you wouldn't mind giving them a big hand. Thank you. Now, when you look at these women, they they look like women in technology, going to MIT, et cetera, and figuring out ways to manage large sets of data and identifying images of the black hole. But I want you to think about women in technology also in a more broader concept. I, for one, did not study or STEM in the traditional sense. I did not pursue a career in STEM either. However, I truly believe that having a STEM mindset is also really important. And one of the reasons I think I was even qualified to moderate this panel today is because I come from an interesting genetic pool of women that had a STEM mindset. So on this picture right behind me is my great-grandmother right in the middle, with wonderful poise. Her name was Fuliba. She never went to school at all, let alone any kind of STEM education. But she was the go-to person in the small town called Baroda in Gujarat, where when anybody fell sick, they went to her and she concocted some herbal remedies, and that used to make everybody feel better. She also, apparently, folklore goes, she gave birth to over 200, or assisted in giving birth to over 200 women and young girls. And so that would have been a lot of family for me. Yes, so she assisted, and she was the go-to person whenever somebody needed to, help with giving birth at that time, because hospitals were not closed in. And so I just feel really blessed to have come from women like that. That picture over there is my currently 107-year-old grandmother, who is still alive and kicking and amazing. She never went to school either. However, she loved to read. And she married a physician, lived in a hospital complex, and so she would visit the hospital library every day and check out books. And the librarian of the hospital often mentioned that she had read more books than medical students had within that hospital environment. And so it's really phenomenal to kind of think about what women with a STEM mindset can do. And so these are some other pictures. That's little me with my parents. I did not go the STEM route, as I mentioned to you, but that's my mom. She was a botanist. My aunt's microbiologist. And now I surround myself with incredible leaders, women leaders, smart women, some in technology, and others in various different professions that are all complemented by technology as well. I am a product of US and India. I've been back and forth a few times. However, I've been in this country now and in Dallas for the past 21 years. And if there were cameras on this campus back then, one, you would have found very few buildings, but you might also have caught me walking around the campus, really trying to figure out what life was going to be like in the US for me back in 1998. But soon after, I was introduced, thanks to professors here at UTD, to a technology incubator and a small team that was getting started up, along with Paul Nichols, who I know is right here in the audience and works at UTD now. Life has come a full circle, but we started to become core team members of this tech incubator and accelerator called StarTech right here in Richardson, where we helped hundreds of technology entrepreneurs and helped start several companies and fund them as well. And so it's interesting kind of where your path takes you. So that's all probably that you're going to hear about me this evening. I want to get this conversation started with the wonderful women we have here in the audience, on the stage here. So I'm going to sit down right next to Maya and get this panel discussion going. But thank you all for being here.
Okay, thank you. My name is Maya Liebman, and I work for American Airlines. When I say American Airlines, what professions come to mind for you? Pilot? Anything else? Flight attendant? What's that? Yeah, hostess, aircraft mechanic. What's that? A director? Yeah, so those are all professions. I think you hit the first two. Everyone says pilot, flight attendant, first and second. Would it surprise you to know that there are over 4,000 people that work on technology for American Airlines? Pretty much everything that happens at the airline on a daily basis involves technology in some way. And so I'm lucky enough to have the responsibility for the technology organization. And when you think about technology at American, your mind might go straight to like our website, like a.com, or if you've ever been at the airport, like the self-service machines that you use to check in, things like that. But we have thousands of systems that do everything from ensure that all those pilots and flight attendants have a monthly schedule to fly. We have systems that when there's a weather event and we have to cancel a lot of flights, we need to make sure that passengers get reaccommodated on other flights, as well as ensure that those pilots and flight attendants get back onto the sequence of flights that they were supposed to be flying. We have systems that pay the 130,000 people that work at American, because I have found that if you don't pay people, they tend not to come to work. So there's a lot of systems that are incredibly important, and they go well beyond the things that you might think of when you think about technology at American. A little bit about me. I have a 12-year-old son, and this is he with my husband at a cooking class that we did recently. We had to squish canned tomatoes with our hands in order to make pizza tomato sauce, which was a really visceral experience. We like to travel a lot, working for American Airlines. If you'd like to travel, I strongly recommend a career in the travel industry because there are great perks that come with working for an airline. And at American, I'm really proud of the things that we're doing to promote women in technology, as well as diversity overall in technology. This is a picture of a program that we do called So Smart, and we work with girls in sort of late elementary and middle school at a couple of under-resourced schools in South Dallas. And we teach them about technology, and it's a lot of fun working with them. This is another program that we do. We've partnered with the DISD Early Collegiate Program, and we work specifically with Adamson High School in Oak Cliff, where we sponsor two tracks, including one on PC support and one on software development. And together with DISD and the local community college, these kids will graduate they'll graduate in 4 years, not just with their high school diploma, but also with their 2-year associate's degree. So they're much better prepared to take on a role at American or any company or go into a 4-year program. And this is a picture of a hackathon that we're doing for girls that's coming up in a few weeks. And it's just an opportunity, again, to give girls an opportunity to work with other girls and really adopt and learn about STEM. And that's me. On to Helen.
Perfect. Thank you. Helen?
Hi, my name is Helen Malik, and I am the founder and CEO of Figable. I studied economics at Haverford College, so I was a liberal arts major. And my first job out of college was to help solve that Y2K problem. I think a lot of you guys may be too young to know what that is, but there used to be a time when putting in 2 more digits into the computer system was a big deal. So. With my experience at PwC, I then joined consulting and software companies, and I've been in the industry for 20 years. And this has allowed me to travel all over the world and working with a lot of brands that you guys interact with even today. So I think I've been to pretty much every airport, in the US, and there's one airport. Funny story is that the person that checked me in at the front desk to give me my ticket also was the person that checked my bags at security, and then also took my boarding pass. And then I thought this couldn't get any weirder. I looked outside the window, and she was the one with the orange. So I was like, this takes the cake for the smallest airport that I've been to. And with that, at PwC, I've learned a lot of great things about coding. I coded in C, C++, C#, then Java, and then JavaScript, HTML, you name it, and just really loved and enjoyed coding, and have from there took that experience to the next stage in my life, which is developing an app. So as a mom of 3 kids, I took this picture about 3 years ago. I noticed that I was tracking their chore list manually on the wall. I was also giving them stickers for good behavior. And then I also had a notebook where I tracked, the money that they've earned and then the money that they've spent. And so I said, let's see if there's an app out there for that, and there wasn't. What I found was that there were a lot of apps that said, you do something and I'll pay you something, but here's the thing, is that what you do and how you do it is just as important. When I immigrated to the US at 8 years old, I didn't speak a word of English. And I remember going into my very first elementary school, had to go to ESL, English as a Second Language, got dumped into this school and didn't know English, and had a very weird lunch with me. And my friend Sid, he sat with me at lunch. And fast forward about 30 years later, my son came home and said, Mommy, I met this new boy. His name is Yusuke. And he didn't know how to speak English, but we talked about how much we love baseball and Pokemon. And I just had a really good time sitting with him. And at that moment, I said, Miles, that is amazing. I want to, I want to give you $50 for this. It's like, you're awesome. But the point is, I wanted to reward his behavior. So life isn't just about doing things. It's not about, checking off, I made my bed, or I folded the laundry. It's also about your behavior. So I developed the Figable app that you can see here, is that it's task plus behavior that gets you the reward. So I modeled the behavior portion after the 4 pillars of the National Honor Society, and modified it a little bit so that they can get points for things like having a growth mindset. When my daughter learned how to install a USB outlet in her room, because you guys know how important it is to charge your phones, in your room, I gave her a growth mindset point, or leadership, or relationship, or character. And so that's with that. I am the type of person that loves to tinker, and I love making the situation better with technology. And so at any given point in the year, we have family scattered all over the world. We have family in Taiwan, in Africa, and in the US, in New York, Virginia, California. And I was like, it's really hard to get everybody in the same room, but what about a virtual room? So I taught my 72-year-old father and my 73-year-old mother-in-law how to use video chat with the kids, and this is what the kids do with them. I have even more embarrassing pictures of them. But on a more serious note, what I wanted to also share about being a woman in technology is that bring in your special brand. And so I actually learned this from a recruiter a few years ago, and I do this 3-leaf clover almost every 6 months to evaluate, because really your 3-leaf clover is going to look different than everybody else's 3-leaf clover. It's a really catchy ARGA, ARPA, P. So what are you really, really, really good at? What are you really, really, really passionate about? And what do you need personally? And are you getting to do things that fulfill these 3 areas? Because that's your special clover. And I feel like as a woman in technology, being able to bring all those things together and say, when I'm in the room, this is what I have to offer. And these are things that define who I am. So looking forward to answering all of your questions. Thank you.
Thanks. Anne? Okay. Can I get the book? Thank you. Anne Sachs with TI.
Yes, hello. My name is Anne Sachs. I'm with Texas Instruments, and I think I have some colleagues here in the audience. Thanks for coming. So actually, my introduction is about answering the question, what does it mean to be a woman in technology? And the way I always talk about it, and we had some sessions also in INTI about it, is for me, being a woman in technology means to lead with grit. And what does grit mean? For me, it's the most important thing for you to actually be successful and do something. And I always think of this phrase, you can beat a person who never gives up. And that is something that actually always has been a source of inspiration for me, because I have been beaten up many times, but you can win because I never give up. So that's the first one. And the second one is actually that 80% of the success is about just showing up. And I know the phrase that we are using here is fearless, right? And I like to think I'm fearless, I'm courageous. All of this is great, but actually it's not about being fearless, being courageous. It's actually about showing up. Even if you are afraid, even if you are shaking, even if you don't have all the data. So it's about being there and making it happen. So for me, what does it mean being a woman in technology? And you see here, in a world full of princes, dare to be a Batman. But don't take me wrong. So actually, if you want to be a princess, that's great. And you can be a princess in the middle of a lot of Batmans. What I'm saying here is that you're going to be different, because unfortunately, it's not there yet from an environment perspective, and you're going to be different. And being different is not always easy. It's tough. And people are going to judge you, and people are going to, try to put you down. So you just really need to be comfortable about being different, because if you're not, you're going to waste your talents, right? You're going to waste your life not realizing the full potential that you just talked about, what you're good at and what you really love to do. So this is me when I was small, and my friend says, of course it's you, look at you, you're looking at the future, you're pointing, very happy about it, and you have a bruise in your knee, which means you fell, but it doesn't matter, so you just stand up and you continue going forward. But in my story, I have been told many, many times that engineering leadership was not for girls. So I grew up in Brazil. So I'm from Rio de Janeiro. I lived in France, I lived in Germany, and I have been 8 years here in Dallas. But nobody in my family is an engineer. My mom is a lawyer, my dad is an economist, my sister is a doctor, and when I started being interested about engineering, they thought I was sick, right? So it's like, but I used to open everything, I used to know how does that work. I was just fascinated by computers and robotics and a lot of different things. And some of you that come from the Latin culture can even relate. When I had my 15 years old, which is the introduction of the girl becoming a woman, I actually told them I didn't want a party, I wanted a computer. So it's been different again, but again, I was just so fascinated by all the technology that I continued my path, even though I was listening that it wasn't for me. I was also told that no matter how hard you try, you'll never be as good as a man. So this kind of things still happen, right? So it's crazy. But it was actually, even someone who was teaching me and said, no matter how hard you try, you're never going to be as good. And I was like, what? And one of the things we're going to be talking about probably on the questions is, for me, it's transforming that type of energy into energy that propels you forward, right? So it's actually using that type of, doubts that come towards you and say, no, I'm going to prove you wrong, and I'm going to go forward and fight for that. I was also, even when I joined the workforce, there were some moments that, you have very strong results and things happen, but you still, you don't get what you can. And for me, again, it's about keep on trying, keep different ways and being flexible. And right now, I was also told I laughed too much, that I should take my laughing out of, to become more serious. So tonight I'm not going to do that. That my voice maybe wasn't, you have to talk a little bit deeper to be serious, and that I also had problems with followership. It's just so many things that people tell you. And I'm not saying don't listen to feedback. It's really important that you listen, but also believe in yourself and believe that even if you have all these characteristics, you're going to do it anyway. You're going to do it maybe in a different way, but you're going to do it. So now I am living the dream. What I say, I'm a leader of a big technical organization, and I am, very strong working hard to make this organization go to the next level. And that's where I'm going to do a little bit of a pitch. So I work for Texas Instruments. I'm going to ask, just like Maya, do you guys know what Texas Instruments does? So the first one, calculators, of course. So that's about 2% of our business. But it's a great business, and I love Peter, who is the guy who's driving the calculators. But we are actually analog, embedded processing. We are in almost every electronic. So we are on this TV, we are everywhere. But the organization I am specifically, it's called DLP, which is a lot of little mirrors. 1/20th of your hair, it's each one of the mirrors, and they produce images and they control light. So I already checked, this projector is a 3-chip DLP, and you can see how beautiful the image is and how big. But actually, we do many, many other things. We do, for example, high-resolution headlights or heads-up display or 3D printing, 3D scanning. You can use light to solve so many problems, and it's so exciting to actually be in this. So that's why I say I'm living the dream, because I have a great product that I can solve so many problems. And I wouldn't be here doing this if I have listened to everything that was told about me before. So I also think it's very important to have a purpose to what you're doing. And my purpose is to build products that impact the world positively. So the high-resolution headlights are going to help see the pedestrian before you hit the pedestrian, right? Or the heads-up display to not take your eyes off the road. Or the 3D printing is going to print helmets that avoid, athletes to get hurt because it's designed for their heads specifically. Or whatever it is, actually you can use technology to solve so many of the problems and make the world a better place. The other one is that I also want to improve the happiness and the engagement of the team that I'm responsible for. And if I'm responsible for 5 people, great. If I'm responsible for 100, for 300. So my purpose is actually to make my organization be a good place to work so that people are engaged and happy. And I think I can have a bigger impact if I am a leader of a bigger organization. And wherever I go, I always want to influence positively, with my character, my values. And the more you are exposed, just like I am exposed here, and I hope I'm going to give you a little bit of that, values and characters that I carry. But really, what really motivates me is inspiring minorities to break through and fulfill their potential. The thing that makes me the most angry is see people with potential that don't realize their potential because they're not in an environment, but also because they are not inspired to keep fighting. And this is really where I take a lot of satisfaction within my own organization when I see somebody breaking through, somebody completely unexpected. It's really just extremely inspiring for me. It's something I want to do it most days of my life. All right, thank you.
Dalia, thank you. Dalia with CBRE.
Hi, my name is Dalia Solomon Powers. I am with CBRE. Does anybody know what CBRE is? Oh, wow, I'm actually impressed because I didn't know until probably a few months ago when I started working for them. So, but now I actually realized that they're everywhere. So CBRE has about 90,000 employees. It's a global company in 450 offices around the globe. We managed over 5 billion square feet of properties, and you'll be surprised at the amount of technology that's needed to make all that work together. So we think about real estate as basically a way to make people's lives better. How many people here spend their time indoors versus outdoors? More time indoors, especially in Texas when it's 110 degrees in the summer. So we think about, hey, the buildings that we're in, it's actually a way to make a big difference in people's lives, to make their lives so much easier, so much connected, and the amount of technology that goes in there, from AI, artificial intelligence, to Internet of Things, to all of those things, it really needs an army of engineers that make it all happen, and especially women engineers. So My background is actually computer science. So my family, I'm probably the only engineer. They all had business degrees, and I was the black sheep of the family when I decided to go to computer science. Because they were like, hey, you're good at math, you can be in marketing, you can be in sales, you can be in all that stuff. But I actually wanted to tinker with a lot of things. I think that engineering is just a passion of mine, and it just makes me just feel so excited and passionate to go every day into work and do something different and see the effect of it on people out there. Plus, I was reading a few days ago that in a few years, 70% of the best jobs are going to be based on STEM. So that's actually a great place to be. So this is a little bit about me. So I married an engineer as well, an electrical engineer, and he actually used to work in DLP. So yeah. And he's actually wanting us to get a DLP projector at home. So he does the hardware, I do the software. We blame everything on each other when things go wrong, but you know, it works. And we have two little girls. They're 10 and 13 now, and they both just love math and science. And but it's funny, when my little one was 8, I was asking her, hey, Kenzie, do you want to go into engineering? And she's like, no, I just want to be an app developer. It's like, woohoo! It's like... So I think there is a little bit of a stigma about girls and engineering because they just don't understand what it is. But you know, if you talk to little girls in school, I think one of the figures was 75% actually show a huge interest in engineering or STEM types of fields. But as they, you know, come to know about the stigma about it in the you know, in the world, then they kind of go another direction. So I think it falls upon all of us here, every single one of us, to work with them and make them understand just how they should pursue their passion and be actually inventors and make a difference in the world. So I think we're all going to be engineers, including the cat. We're working on him right now. So. These are the companies that I worked with. So I started my career with IBM working on operating systems and compilers, and you know, way back when. So I know that you guys are good with math, so I'm not going to tell you the years so you wouldn't know how old I am, but, but it's been a long time ago. And then I moved also, you know, to Texas Instruments. I worked in financial services with Capital One and USAA, and now I'm working with CBRE. So you'll see that being in a STEM field actually allows you to go into so many different industries, and you can still use your skills, because it's all about solving problems. It's all about something, doing something you're passionate about and making a difference in people's lives. And we'll start the questions.
Thank you all. So as you can all see, we have an incredible panel of women that have had very different journeys leading them to this point. We have Dahlia, who absolutely loved math and kind of had figured some of this out early. Anne, who at the age of 5 was opening up pretty much anything she could to figure out what was inside and how to fix it. We had Helen, who went in economics, studied economics, a consulting background, and eventually now a technology entrepreneur. And Maya, who had a non-traditional route that kind of got her to where she is at American Airlines. So one of the things that is very common in all of this is that we're all, in a way, women in technology who really need to be prepared and engaged in this rapidly changing era of this changing digital era that we're in. So I have a video that I wanted to show you, and then I'm going to follow that up with a question for each one of you. Maybe I do, maybe I don't. Let's see.
when anything can go wrong, it
I
will
know.
go wrong.
It's not the fault of the projector.
Do we have Do we have tech support on the video? All right. Well, hopefully we'll get this going shortly, but if not, let me go ahead and ask my question. It was a wonderful video. Oh, there you go. Well, while she's pulling this up, this video is a short promotional video from the If Then initiative, which is started by the Lyda Hill Philanthropies, an organization based right here in North Texas that is focused on getting girls to start having a cultural shift around STEM and STEM education. And so as we're pulling up this video, why don't we go ahead and also ask each one of you, what do you think it means to have a STEM mindset or a STEM identity? Helen?
I think a STEM mindset is all about a growth mindset. It's all about learning how to continuously learn. It's about exploration. It's about not being afraid to make mistakes and learn from them, because that's exactly how we grow. We never, if you get something right the first time, you always wonder, what did I miss? What could I have learned from that? It's kind of like when I used to write my programs a long time ago and they used to work the first time, I know something went wrong. Because it's like, it's impossible. There has to be something to learn from. So I think it's all about just continuing to learn from all your experiences and take that as a platform for you to get into areas and challenge yourselves into areas that you wouldn't necessarily have dared to try.
And did you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I think, you answered exactly what I was going to say. So I think it's interesting to say, hey, I never fail. Either I win or I learn, I think that is just complementary in terms of, hey, it's the creativity, it's the problem solving, is the kind of failure is not a problem, right? So it's just one more thing that you learned. So I think that actually develops, again, the grit and the perseverance that I talk, that I think it's extremely important. So for me, the STEM mindset is all about growth mindset and all about this never give up.
Do either of you want to add something to that?
Yeah, I'll just echo the same sentiment, and I think of the impact of what if somebody or some company did not have people with a STEM mindset. So think about how the Apple first came out with the iPhone in 2007, and if they didn't have a STEM mindset and just stop there, that would mean that there wouldn't be selfies because the first iPhone didn't have a front-facing camera, or I would get lost a whole lot more because there wasn't GPS, or I'd be incredibly bored on the plane because I wouldn't have a full movie to watch. So I think just look at what the world would be like if companies and people didn't have a STEM mindset. You would be stagnant.
Great. Well, today, when some of the students were coming on campus, TalkSTEM actually engaged them in a QR code scavenger hunt. Did you all enjoy that process of going around campus? Yes? And so I'd love to ask each one of you that, STEM, as you think about it, right, or being a person in technology, what are kind of your thoughts on the kind of school or classroom experiences that maybe you would have liked to have had, when you were younger, that might have made a difference?
I would have liked to have a computer that I would play with, because when I went to school, computers were not readily available in the classrooms. I think, I went to a school where it was a very, very structured education, and we had very set classes and exams, which was, of course, great. But, thinking about it again, I would have loved to have had the freedom to actually go and look at things that I was passionate about. Maybe learn about something that wasn't on the curriculum and go and just research it and understand better about it. Participate more in group type of activities and projects at a young age, because I think one of the things that we find with fresh graduates is that in the workplace, they might be really, really good at doing something, but a lot of times they're not as used to working with teams. And I think it's extremely important in a workplace to make it about the team. It's not just about the individual contributor. It's about how the entire team can work together and can help each other succeed. And you take the concept of the team and you scale it up to, the organization within the company and then the entire company. So I think there is a lot of room for growth around, the education system and getting people to also understand how life is going to be in the workplace and be prepared for it so they know what they're getting into.
Maya, would you like to add to that?
Yeah, I think I'll just build on what Dahlia said. I think when we teach STEM and specifically computer science, I think there's a real emphasis in school on making the individual a great coder and a great developer, a great infrastructure architect. But what Dahlia said is, being able to work with other human beings is equally as important. We're doing something at American Airlines right now called pair programming, where you have two developers who are working on the same set of code. One developer will develop for a period of time while the other developer is really checking their work. Then they switch. And although you're investing two people on one set of code, the idea is that the quality of that code is going to be a lot better. So you're actually going to get faster because you're going to develop higher quality code. Well, working with another human being who's watching what you're doing and is correcting what you're doing is, there's a lot of social, emotional aspects to that. And if you can't get comfortable with that, if you can't get comfortable with the idea that you're not going to be working by yourself all the time, then it's going to be a difficult experience. So I would encourage the schools to be adopting that aspect as well, the group dynamic, the collaborative, the cooperative, the human connection, rather than just thinking of STEM as a very isolated activity.
Anne, I was going to ask you, so what did you do outside of school that you think helped you on your career path? Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so I will say a classic one, but sports, So sports, I think, really unleashed this competitive side and kind of the discipline aspect of it. So the team aspect of it as well, working in teams, making mistakes and having to carry the team. And so sports was a big one. Actually, another one that helped me was I'm very, adventurous. So, I've done bungee jumping, skydiving, swimming with anacondas, and all sort of stuff. And
Quite exciting. I'm sure there's a story there.
Yes. My husband said, okay, now I have a 9-year-old boy. I regret I didn't put their picture here, but they're not in the audience, so that's okay. But he said, hey, please don't die until at least he's 18 years old. So I stopped doing, this kind of things. But I remember growing up, I was really scared of snakes. And then I went and I took a picture of a snake around my neck, and I never dreamed about snakes again. But it's kind of like facing your fears actually really helped me when I had those moments that were really scary, and I said, hey, I've done that already. I already jumped the plane, and so that also helped me take more risks, which in the end were good.
Yeah. Helen, would you like to add to that? No?
I will.
Yeah. Okay, good, Maya.
For me, it was theater. I was very involved from a very young age, and I think getting over your fear of standing in front of people and really communicating to people, I think is really important for any field that you want to go into.
That is true. Dahlia, I think you wanted to add something to that?
Yeah, I would actually like to share a story. So first time I went on stage and presented, I think I had been out of college 2 years maybe, And I thought it was going to be a small room, but it was in Paris, and I think I could have sworn there was like 1,000 people in the auditorium. It was probably less than 100, but I just felt like it was. I went on stage, and I had prepared my material. It was great. And I went there, and I just froze. I was just, it's like I felt like my temperature was, over the top, and I read through my slides and just ran off. And that became actually one of the things that I wanted to take as a challenge. It's like, hey, if I'm working that hard and this was the first project I was a lead on, and I wanted to really be proud of the teamwork that we've done and all of that, that I needed to actually challenge myself. So as soon as I came back, I enrolled myself in Toastmasters and stuck with it, and now I just enjoy public speaking. So I think always taking things that were, a point of fear and contention and actually challenging yourself. You feel so excited after you've actually, done that, because you've taken something that you considered a bit of a weakness and turned it into a strength.
Mm-hmm. You bet. Helen, if you wanted to answer this one, what do you wish someone had told you when you were in middle school, high school, maybe even in college, that would have made a difference to who you are today?
I wish that someone said to me, talk to yourself like you would talk to a good friend. So we are our harshest critic, and I wish that somebody would say to me, if your friend was going through the same situation, how would you talk to them? And then you're like, oh, I would not beat that person up and tell them that. So, yeah.
That's great. That is a good one. Maya, did you have?
Not one as good as that. Yeah, I think it would be just, I think I would have told my younger self to not stress as much, that everything works out in the end, and no decision you make is irreversible, and really you're going to miss important moments of your life and miss the enjoyment of important moments if you're as stressed out as you might be about them.
So Anne, sorry, Dahlia, did you want to go?
I was going to add to that's all very much true, especially of women, beating themselves up and, stressing and all of that. One thing that I read that's actually really helpful is before you go to bed every day, write 3 things that you've done well that day. Mm-hmm. And that usually makes you, relax and feel good about, what you've done. And sometimes it's just, I brushed my teeth. So that was my accomplishment. But
Twice a day. Twice a day.
Yeah. But at least, it's like not every day is going to be a great day, but think about the things that you've done well.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So Anne, you and I were talking about this earlier, but what technology and non-technology skills do you think helped you throughout your career path?
So a technology skill for me, it's actually the ability to look at the complex problem holistically and kind of understand the core of the problem quickly. So, and then of course getting the right people with the right talents and pulling that team together to solve that problem. So I think this has been the biggest skill from a technological perspective. From a non-technological perspective, I think the biggest thing that helped me go forward is being bold, right? It's really being out there. It's the quote that I put there: show up, speak up, participate, even if you're incomplete, even if you don't have the skills. I think this characteristic is probably the one that helped me the most come to where I am. So.
Maya, I know you had some thoughts on that as well.
If non-technology skills are around communication. If you can't take your idea and present it in a clear and compelling way, both in a written way and orally, then you're going to have a really hard time in whatever field you choose. And I would really advise students to look for opportunities, take classes that force you to write or that force you to present. It's one of those skills, just like all skills in life, where you get better the more you do it. and it is going to be hugely important as you continue in your career. Did you want to?
Yeah, and when it comes to technology skills, I feel like it all boils down to data. If you have an understanding of data and databases and how data is organized, it unlocks so much of how you think about the world. So everything down to who has music on their phones? Raise your hand. Yeah, I think it's pretty much all of us. It is data. It is the songs, the lyrics, the album, the artist. All of those are pieces of data that is being organized on your phone. And so I have found that one skill that I've learned from my days of designing databases, it unlocks so many of the way I'm able to see efficiencies in processes because it's all around moving data around. And when it comes to non-technical skills, I would say remember the phrase, it's both tone and content. So what you, very much like what Maya is saying about communication, what you're saying is just as important as how you say it. So when you say something like, I'm fine versus I'm fine, I said the same thing, but your tone makes a huge difference, and that in communication to others is incredibly important.
Talia?
Yeah, something I heard recently is people won't remember years down the road what you said to them, but they'll remember how you made them feel, which goes to communication. And I think it's really important to have those soft skills and be able to connect with people and be able to understand what motivates them and be able to show them the appreciation even for the small things that you do. And it goes back to what my fellow panelists were talking about in terms of the engagement of the teams and having them being energized and having them being contribute. So think about the emotional aspect of things and how you connect with people as well as the practical side of things.
So I'm going to switch gears a little bit. Obviously, I work at the Communities Foundation of Texas, as Dave mentioned, and I lead an effort internally called CFT for Business, where we work with businesses and make it easy for them to give back in the community. So I can't help but ask each one of you a question about how do you think companies can use technology to impact lives and impact our communities? Do you have examples of maybe something your own companies are doing or things you have seen in the past or that you might be doing to use technology? Helen, I don't know, do you want to get this started or?
Yeah, I personally for Figable, I have found that we are in such a fast-paced world. I mean, I have 3 kids, and one that's in high school, one in middle school, one in elementary school, each of them in different sports. I'm traveling, my husband's traveling, and we are living in such a fast-paced world that I felt like I couldn't keep up with everything on paper. So digitizing the information, which has helped incredibly, just having our to-do list on an app and their behaviors on the app, I could instantaneously communicate within my family and with the kids' nanny and with their coaches and teachers all within one place. And that has, I think, a good use of technology to facilitate communication. Yeah.
Anne?
So I started on my introduction. I think technology is a great way of solving a lot of problems, right? And I'm a big believer, and that's one of the reasons why I'm passionate about technology. I mentioned the products, right? So if you think about it, that the things we all develop, they make the world safer. So, the electronics that go in cars or the cameras in your houses or, different things, you're making it safer. And then you have the greener, right? So if you're automating a factory, you're getting less pollutants in the environment, or the car is theoretically going down on diesel. It needs to be checked a little bit more, but And then you have the fun aspect of it, right? So you can watch a movie, you can go to the all of this, or your phone. All of this, it's technology improving lives. If you think about the advances we are doing in medicine, right, and in treatments and all the surgeries that now you do it with little cameras and all this technology that it's saving lives. So this alone, for me, it's a huge contribution for the society. But for example, Texas Instruments was built on actually this giving back to the community. And we have a very strong connection with helping communities like United Way. For example, we have campaigns. Our CEO is actually the campaign chair. And we help a lot of different causes. And what I find is that the team coming together and doing a day of impact and going, I don't know, to build a house in Wiley. I think that's the last one that the team did. Or having this community sense is also extremely helpful for us working together. So these are some of the examples. I think it was mentioned, the high-tech high heels, which helps girls actually get interested in STEMs, do some physics camps, and get more familiar and comfortable with this kind of things. So there are so many opportunities. It's really encouraging.
Yeah, good. So while there are, obviously we know about the unique opportunities that are available to women in technology, there are also some serious implicit biases that exist in companies and in the community as well as you think about STEM or as you think about technology. And so have either of you faced some of these challenges, or can you share examples of such situations that you might have gone through or overcome? Maya, would you like to?
I won't talk about any personal experiences because I've been fortunate to work for a company that is really, very gender blind and really champions women in all areas, including technology. But I had this really interesting experience where, because I know a lot of bias, especially gender bias, exists in STEM and in the world in general. And so interesting experience was in February over President's Day weekend, I went to New Orleans with my husband and son, and we did a walking tour of the French Quarter. It was a tour for teens, tweens and teens. And so there was my son and another girl who was about the same age, 12 or 13. And the tour guide was great. He was a former high school history teacher, and he'd grown up in New Orleans, and he knew everything about the cities, everything that you would want. Super engaging, and really spent the whole time just talking to the kids and teaching them about the city. But what was so interesting is just the way that he would ask them questions. So, for example, we're on the top of we're looking out over the Mississippi. And he turns to my son and he says, now why would this position right here be a really good, strategic position to take up a battle position? And then he would turn to the girl and he would say, there were a lot of early settlers in New Orleans. What kind of languages do you think they spoke? And then he would turn back to my son and he would say things like, the fleur-de-lis, which is the symbol of New Orleans, what football team has that on their helmet? And then he'd turn to the girl and he'd say, what ingredients do you think are in beignets? How do you make a beignet? And it was so funny because, he had no idea he was doing it, and he really thought, he was, this was the way to engage these kids. But what the message they got was that boys like war, and boys are interested in sports, and girls like cooking and humanities. And what's really hilarious is my son knows nothing about football, and he's really into cooking. And so, so I just think, as girls, we deliver these messages. There's these studies that say, especially at the 4th and 5th grade level, teachers are telling girls, oh, you know what, math just isn't your thing. And what they're telling boys, yeah, right,
exactly.
What? And what they're telling boys is, you're just not trying hard enough in math. And so, if you're getting the message that this isn't your thing, you're saying, okay, well, I guess I should move on to what is my thing. But if you're getting the message, you're just not trying hard enough, you're thinking, oh, well, I want to do well, I'm going to try harder. And so we're really doing a disservice to girls, and we need to, as adults, we need to recognize that bias and how that's creeping into how we're interacting with kids. And as kids, we need to not buy into that at all. So if somebody ever tells you that math is not your thing and you like math, say, you know what, that's not true. Math is my thing, and I'm going to try harder if I'm not doing well in it.
Thank you. Dahlia, we were talking about when we were on a panel call about the NASA astronaut costume, the spacesuit issues. And while there was several issues that kind of went into why the sizing didn't quite work out, tell me what your thoughts are on about why do women need to be at the table? Why is it important for women to be at the table when important decisions are being made?
We have the population. So that's
true.
That's an accomplishment. So why would have the population give up the right to form products and to form opinions and delegate that to the other half? I think we have the exact right to have a seat at the table and to be able to contribute. Think about a lot of the products that get created, and if we don't have representation that mirrors the society, then we're losing on the opportunity on making them better. So that was a story around basically the spacewalk. I think it was in late March 29th. And it was going to be the first space walk in history where that was all women astronauts. And guess what? They only had one suit prepped that was a size medium. The others were size large. So they had to actually keep one of them back because they didn't have a suit that fit her size. I mean, you would think with NASA and the way that they have everything planned just to the nth degree, that how could that not have, dawned on them? So I think a lot of it is just, it's not intentional by any means. It's a lot of it is basically people just sometimes forget. And I think it's up to us to remind them to take into account women's needs and how women are also entitled to be represented. And going back to some of the data that Maya was talking about in that story, I was reading in the mid-'80s, I think the representation of women graduates from STEM schools was about 37%, and that kind of mirrored the representation in the workplace. If you fast forward to today, it's about 17%. So it went down compared to the mid-1980s. And there are lots of theories around that, and one of them was around basically that's when Barbie dolls became really, really popular, and you had computers that were now personal computers being introduced at home, and it seems like the advertising was more geared towards girls. Oh, you belong with the Barbie dolls, and the boys were getting the computers, so they got a head start, in kind of understanding the computer science and analytics and things like that. So I think that's something that we have to be careful about and reverse that trend, so we don't unconsciously direct women or girls towards a certain field rather than boys.
Helen, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I'd like to add to that is that being present at the table, I've having been in software in over 20 years and being at these different companies, I have found myself as the only woman in a room full of technologists, and I was at a cosmetics company where there were about 40 people, some in the room, some on the phone, but they were making decisions about cosmetics, and I was the only woman in the room. That's not a good thing, and that reminded me of a story of when a lot of these biases that come into the room isn't always not just what's told to you, but it's what you observe. So when my son was about 6 years old, and we were sitting in the piano studio, and he looks over at me and he says, "Mommy, is Mozart dead?" And I said, "Yes, Mozart's dead." "And is Tchaikovsky dead?" "Yes." Schubert, and then we go on, and he listed all these different famous male composers that are dead, and then he stopped and he said, do boys with long hair die? and I looked up and I was like, oh yeah, they're all dead. And I said, you know what, you made a really great decision or made a great observation based on the knowledge based on the data that's in front of you. All of these portraits are boys with long hair, and your father's bald, and your brother has short hair, and your uncle has short hair. They're not dead, so we're good. And being the Jersey girl that I am, I had to introduce him to Steven Tyler and Axl Rose and John Bon Jovi and of course Jared Leto from 30 Seconds to Mars. You know, they're awesome. And just imagine if that I was able to, if I wasn't there to provide that perspective, he'd walk around thinking that boys with long hair would die. And so it's offering that extra perspective in the room.
Yeah, so I think there are countless studies about, you know, how profitability increases if you have diverse teams making decisions, how it is important to have diverse on product decisions and things like that. But actually thinking about this, for me, it goes back to, I think we were asking this question too much, right? So why is it good to have women at the table? Why don't we ask, why is it good to have men on the table? I mean, whenever I get this answer, then I can answer as well, why is it good to have women on the table too?
I just looked at the time and realized that we've been having a wonderful conversation, but I need to also leave time for the audience Q&A. So in case we don't have questions, which I'm sure we will because we have quite a fun interactive group here, I have some more to ask. But we have a fun way to ask questions today. Can I get one of you to demonstrate this with me? Dahlia, do you want to be brave? So this is our microphone. It's called a catchbox. What we're going to do is throw this to you if you have a question, and all you will do is keep it close to your chin and ask the question, and then pass it on to somebody else who has their hand up. So Dahlia, I'm just going to throw this to you. Do you want to raise your hand? And I'm just going to throw it to you. Okay. That's all you do, and you ask your question and you pass it on. There you go. So I guess you have a better throw than I do. Does anybody have a question? Okay, back.
That's going to be a tough one.
All right, so well, throw it to somebody and they'll pass it on. There we go. Woo! Koshi, you did not even try. And if you can address the question to any one of the panelists, or if you want either one of them to respond.
First of all, thank you for being here. I really wish my 7-year-old daughter was here. The question that I had is, all of us kind of grew and there was information scarcity, yes? But we're living on the other side, and so is the next generation that is over here. How has your, I started asking the questions, why does college have to be 4 years? Why does master's have to be 2 years? Because I felt like school was holding me down as much as it was enabling me for the future. How has your thought process evolved with the Coursera's and the Udemy's of the world? Because there's too much information for everybody. There's bias, there's this danger of just going down this rabbit hole of not seeing, getting guidance in a clear way.
So it sounds like the question is kind of the confronting kind of the norm of the normal path of.
How do you learn to relearn, or relearn to learn, sort of thing? From a women perspective, right?
That's interesting. Is that I recently have come to the decision that maybe a gap year would be a good thing between high school and college, and I'll wait for all the Asian parents to gasp. It's like, what? but I do feel like that I don't think I took education as a race. I took it as let's get good grades in high school so I can get to college and get good good grades there, and then get the next job. And I just sped through life. And what if there was a time that you can reflect and really consume and then understand and take that time to say, what is my 3-leaf clover, and then decide, asking a 18-year-old, 19-year-old to make a decision on their major, that's some pretty big decisions, right? So that's kind of my thoughts on it's not specific to gender, but just taking some time for yourself to understand who I am, what I'm good at. Now let's tackle the next phase.
Okay. I think we have Dahlia, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I finished high school at 15, and I was just rushing, and now I wish I really had, taken my time and relaxed and enjoyed things a little bit more. But I think it's more than about degrees nowadays, because whatever you're going to study in college is going to be obsolete in a year or two, right? So it's more about the process of continuous learning. How do you continue to evolve and to continue to learn something new every day without necessarily having to stop everything and go back and get another degree? So it's to teach yourself how to continuously learn is what I would suggest that you would do.
I think we have a question from a student right there. Go ahead.
All right. Thank you guys so much for being here, first of all. Second of all, right now I'm a senior in high school. I'm about to graduate in a month. And I was wondering, what jobs or internships did you guys have that led you to this successful part of your life right now? Because, I don't know, I would like to take a summer job or maybe just a job at some time in the future during college. I don't know. What do you guys think? What should we do?
So I think at high school, just getting a job is a good start, right? Don't stress over what type of job. I think it's any job that you're going to get now, you're going to learn from. You're going to learn discipline. You're going to learn, you have to be there at a specific time, and you have to do those duties, and you're going to have to learn to deal with your boss and your coworkers, and those are all great learnings, and they will be good for you in the workplace. If you're interested in pursuing a STEM type of job, then try to get into a company that just so you can see if this is the type of life you're going to want to live going forward and get exposure to that. But I think I applaud you for thinking about getting a job just now. I mean, that's great.
And I'd probably want to add to that, also consider, just because that's what I do now, is the opportunity to volunteer or even intern at a nonprofit organization, because not only will you have the ability to learn more about the needs in our community, but you can roll up your sleeves and truly do some good internship work, because nonprofits are always resource constrained. And so we have our interns usually leave our organization with so much wealth of work experience. And so keep that in mind as well.
Yeah, the only other thing I'd add, those are both great answers, is if you ever wait tables at some point in your life, you will learn more about human nature than anything else. So don't be afraid to take a job in the service industry. It'll be a great education for whatever you do.
That's right. We have another question. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
And I mean, just the fact that you stand up and you're asking this question is great. So you're in a great path.
Awesome.
The only thing I would add to it is whatever job you take, just do above and beyond any expectations. So you can use that experience to test your limits and your skills, and just think about what do they expect from me, and how can I impress and do much more than what I'm asked to do, and have fun doing this.
Have a question right there. You've got the catch box. Go ahead.
So we all know that life has a lot of ups and downs. In my undergraduate career, I've gone through a lot of family problems, and it's hard navigating life sometimes when you're trying to be really successful. So what would y'all, can you share experiences maybe about some tough times that you went through and how you got through them and how you navigated them and emerged successful?
Oh, deep question.
Yes, very deep question. Yes.
Very good. So I've had my ups and downs, and I've had my ups and downs not only from a personal perspective, but actually from a professional perspective as well, right? So it's not always up, right? So sometimes you get knocked down. And And I think it's very important for you to kind of don't freak out, right? So thinking that there will be a tomorrow. For me, in my case, having faith is also something that calms me and kind of, for some people, it's meditation, you know, but I actually think that it's about taking time to breathe and relax and not try to solve everything one step at a time, having patience, and, you know, be surrounded with people that are positive and are helpful and, you know, having friends. It's extremely important in life, at least for me. Having fun, you know, sometimes forgetting about your problems and having fun. So I actually am at the board of an organization called Make-A-Wish, which is, you know, helping kids that are going through very tough, critical illness, and then granting this wish. And we make it as special as possible so that you actually have a little bit of a distraction of what's going on and you have something to look for. And this hope that creates inside of you, it's actually so good for your health, right? So there are studies that show that it's actually improving the health. It's not just a nice thing to do. So it is important for you to have hope and know that this is a phase. Then nothing is, you know, permanent. Everything goes, you know, up and down. and you know, that you're in the down phase, and be patient when it's up, but look for those opportunities to have hope and stay calm. So
and since you're mentioning staying calm and breathing, and this is a conversation around technology, there has to be an app for that. And so some apps that we might recommend is there's one called Headspace. I don't know if you use that, but that's one worth downloading. They have 12 free sessions, and I evangelize Headspace out to everybody. So consider that, and there's many other mindfulness exercises that you can take on the net. Did you have any?
Yeah, those were all terrific suggestions. This is a phase. Everything, you know, gets better. But what I would say is that I firmly believe that we learn more from the challenges in our life than we do when things are smooth sailing. And everything that you're experiencing is all going to be part of the fabric that is you. And as you grow, it's going to just mature you and give you such better perspective later in life. And you'll have much more interesting stories to discuss at a panel like this that you'll be on in the future.
That is true. I know that we are, do we have enough, can we take one more question or one more? All right. Thank you.
Ready?
Whoa.
Okay.
Nice catch.
Hi. So I just recently moved back to the Dallas area. I've lived in Oklahoma City for the last 10 years and got a job down here. Luckily, it was a promotion, and I'm now beginning management as a software engineer. And I was curious, I haven't really seen a lot of talks about growing your career through the management track. It's kind of more male focused, and I was wondering if you had any suggestions for a budding manager or woman trying to move up the chain. Thanks.
So, you know, you'll find sometimes yourself the only woman around the table, but, you know, have fun with it. Then you'll become your boss's favorite female executive in the room. So it's, I would suggest that find mentors and find sponsors. I think that's probably something that's key. And I didn't think about it until a little bit later in my career, but that's something that I wish I had done earlier. Always develop allies. So a lot of times, you know, you'll find that as the only woman in a meeting, maybe you won't have the opportunity to speak your mind up. So make sure that you actually talk to people before the meeting, understand where their points of view are, and have the meeting before the meeting so that when you're there, you actually know how to respond and how to manage the conversations. And just be the best at what you do, and don't be afraid to speak up and take chances. And nobody, you know, is flawless. Everybody makes mistakes. And just, you know, one of the things that women do they are a lot harder on themselves. So men are always, I made a mistake, but I'm awesome, so it doesn't really matter. But women, they're like, hey, they'll sit in bed at night and say, oh my gosh, I said that one word wrong, and how dare me do this, and you beat yourself over it 100 times. Well, don't do that, and always, have even a peer mentor that you can discuss things with, so you can feel good about yourself and just have fun with it.
Thank you. I know there's a lot more hands that went up, and maybe if the panelists have a few minutes after the panel is done to spend time with a couple of the students to answer questions, that would be great. But I know I'm seeing a lot of UTD personnel saying time's up, so I want to honor that. Thank you all so much, Dahlia, Ann, Helen, and Maya, for this wonderful conversation, providing your insights. I know we could have kept this going for some time, but I do need to get this this panel done, or they won't have me back as a moderator again. Porus Bolsara, Dean Bolsara is coming back up. Thank you again so much for having all of us here. We appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you very much once again, and please join me in applauding this excellent panel. So before we end, I would like to announce the winners of the Walk STEM competition. And so you guys can come to the stage later on and pick up your prizes. So the winners are Tim December, Alia Stewart, Liberty Petrius, Nwokocha Soma, Sofra. You are allowed to applaud. Then Sofra Fashwa, Jessica Wu, Amanda Morales, Serena Barrios, Nalia Ochrinsi. I'm sorry if I didn't pronounce your name correctly, sir. And Hermila Jonas. So once again, congratulations and thanks to TalkSTEM and Koshi Dhingra for organizing this interesting experience. For all our community and friends who visited this campus today, please don't be strangers moving forward. Do visit us often, visit our website, and keep in touch with us as we have more and more such events. So thank you all, and have a good night, and enjoy your stay. Oh, I just wanted to add one more thing to what Helen said for the Asian parents. I am an Asian parent, so. And the message is that life is not a 100-meter dash, it's a marathon. So run accordingly, so.